In this video, I want to talk about combining or adding integers, and I'm going to be using these square tiles. The green one represents a positive number, and the gray represents a negative number. I'll go ahead and write out the number problems while I'm showing what the group represents. So in this first one, let's say we're going to combine we have 4 tiles, or 4 positives, and we're going to add to that 2 more positives. So 4 positives, and we could write it with the positive 4. Positive 4 plus positive 2 is going to give us a total group of 6, or 6 positives. Another example using just positives, say we have positive 3. And I want to add to that 1 more. How many do we have altogether? We have 4 positives. Let's say we want to work just with our negative numbers. In this example, I'm going to show 5 negatives. I want to add to this 3 more negatives. How many negatives do I have altogether? I have 8 negatives. Let's try another example. Say I have 4 negatives, and I want to add to this group 1 more negative. How many negatives do I have, or what's the total number or amount that this represents? Negative 5. Let's mix it up now. Instead of adding the same sign, let's add one group that's positive and one group that's negative. In this first example, I'm going to have 3 positives. And I want to add to that 2 negatives. I want to know what this group now represents. If you remember zero pairs, we can figure out we've got 2 zero pairs. What's left is 1. So we have a positive 1. Let's look at another example. Here we have 7 positives. And I want to add to this one more. Let's take away 1. 5 negatives. What does this group represent now? Well, I'm going to group my zero pairs, or at least pull them off to the side maybe. What's left is 2, positive 2. Let's look at a few more. Here we'll have 4 positives, and I want to add to that 5 negatives. What does that represent? Looks like I have negative 1 left over. One more problem. Let's say we have 3 positives and 6 negatives. Looks like I have 3 negatives left. I'm going to stop using the tiles now, and I want to focus on some patterns that maybe you're seeing. Let's first look at when we were just adding with the same sign. In the first two examples, I'm adding two positive numbers together, positive 4 and a positive 2, positive 3 and positive 1. Notice when I add two of the same positive signs, I add the two numbers and then the sign is the same as my positive numbers. So 4 plus 2 is 6, and because both the numbers that I'm adding together are positive, my answer is also positive. This is true for the 3 plus 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, positive, positive, positive. Let's see if that holds true for our negative numbers. Negative 5 plus negative 3 gives us negative 8. Well, I know that 5 plus 3 is 8. Notice that the signs, however, are negative. I have a negative in both of the numbers I'm combining, and my answer is also going to be negative. This is true for the second example. Negative 4 plus negative 5 gives us negative 4 plus negative 1 gives us negative 5. 4 plus 1 is 5. Negative is in the answer. So we can think of a rule. When you add the same sign, you want to keep the sign. So when adding, numbers that have the same sign, we want to add and keep the sign. Let's look at the numbers below. In these examples, we have a positive combined with a negative. And notice that I started all of my problems working with positive numbers. But there is a difference between this group and this group. Notice that our answers for the first two are positive, and our answers for the bottom two are negative. Let's see what happened there. In this first example, positive 3 plus a negative 2, if we were going to add those two numbers together, we would get 5. But instead, it looks like we're taking the difference, or we're subtracting. 3 take away 2 gives us 1. Notice our answer is a positive number. We'll talk about that again in a minute. Let's look at the others. Positive 7 plus negative 5. Again, we're not adding these two numbers together. It looks like we're taking the difference between the two. 7 minus 5 gives us 2. But the answer has a positive sign. If we look at the bottom two examples, we have a positive 4 and a negative 5. Again, we're taking the difference, which is 1, but our answer is a negative. And here, positive 3 combined with negative 6, we get a 3 because 6 take away 3 is 3, but again our answer is a negative. Let's look at the size of let's look at the sign of the largest number that we're subtracting. So in these first two examples, you'll see that the positive numbers are the larger. We're taking 2 from 3, and 3 is larger. my answer is the same size or the same sign as the sign of the larger number. Same here. The 2 has the same sign as my larger number. Notice in the two examples that follow, that continues to follow that rule. The sign of my answer is the same as the larger number in my problem. -5 is larger than the 4, okay? So the 5 is larger than the 4. Excuse me, don't think of it as -5 is larger than 4, because that's not correct. What I'm saying is 5 is larger than 4. Same with this last one. 6 is larger than 3, and so because the 6 is associated with a negative, my answer will also have the negative sign. So let's write a rule. When adding different signs, numbers with different signs, we want to subtract. And then take the sign of the larger number. So when you're combining numbers, you're going to have different scenarios. In one scenario, the numbers that you're adding together are all going to have the same sign, whether it be a positive or a negative. In a different situation, the numbers are going to have different signs, and when you combine them, you're basically subtracting those numbers. But remember, the answer must have the sign of the larger number. If you have questions, please ask in class, and we'll do more examples.